Morning. Welcome to another special episode of Thai Sports Picks 24. Again, I'm going to say Thai Sports Picks 24. Everybody get ready for the picks. Let's lock them in. We actually got a couple MLB to go with the college football for Saturday, but first let's start off with the college football. Got a lot going on. We got the Miami Hurricanes money line. We got Virginia Tech minus 9.5. We got Clemson plus 14.5. I got Maryland minus 12.5. Oklahoma State minus 10.5. Northwestern minus 2.5. Eastern Michigan money line. Michigan minus 16.5. And as you see, also watch the full show. Watch the show for bonus picks because we may have some extra picks that I didn't write down. Also, let's look at the MLB. We got the Cubs money line and we got the New York Yankees money line. So I'm gonna let you guys lock those in. Also, down at the bottom, you got the Cash App and the social media. If you'd like to donate to the channel, which we really would appreciate, it's $TY Rebel 22. The Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok is at TY Sports Picks 24. So let's go over some of these picks. Now, the Cubs won last night. That was the beginning of the series. I believe that they'll have a repeat performance along with the New York Yankees. As far as the college football picks, when we get into the Miami Hurricanes, it's a rivalry game. Both of the quarterbacks are good. One is great. One is good. Well, very good. One is very good in Graham Mertz. But Cam Ward just seems to be a great quarterback. A lot of people are just assuming that because Vanderbilt, I guess, is an SEC program that they can hang with Virginia Tech, but this is not last year or the year before Virginia Tech. This is a lot more like what Virginia Tech was, let's say, 10 years ago. Maybe even I'd say 5-6 years ago or whatever. I see them as maybe like a borderline 8 if they're lucky 9-win team or whatever. Virginia Tech should cover for 10 points. They got a quarterback, Kyron Drones. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the podcast between Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward with their quarterback coach from Texas. Kyron Drone is hold on one second. Sorry about that. Yeah, but Kyron Jones is basically a dual threat guy. He's actually the tallest out of the three or whatever. You know, one thing I didn't like about Shedeur on Thursday night is he did run a little bit, but he seemed very hesitant to use your legs. Now, a lot of you quarterbacks, I know, especially with the African-American quarterbacks, they don't want to get typecast for the NFL as being just a runner. But you have to understand that if you have tools in the tool shed, you have to use them accordingly. Prior to all the fiascos off the field, Deshaun Watson was a great example. He had mobility, not to the level of Lamar Jackson, but he did have some nice mobility. He would slide, he would run out of bounds, but he would take those yards when the passing wasn't there. You don't want to force things into coverage. And usually when you're a mobile quarterback, you even saw it with the quarterback for North Dakota State. He could throw the ball, but when they went man against him or when they were doing those blitzes, he had no problem either rolling out of the pocket or getting 5-6 yards, sometimes 10-15 yards. Because I believe the final touchdown for North Dakota State was on the ground by that quarterback. So it's not about running all the time. It's just knowing when to run. Not to skip all over the place, but again, I did pick the Yankees over the St. Louis Cardinals because I just feel like the Yankees are already a tough team, and they started off the series great, but also they're at home. It's going to be an early game, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They should have a nice crowd, so I think they'll be able to handle it. When you talk about the Cubs going to the Nationals, it is on the road, but I still lean towards the Cubs. I think they got good pitching, you know, so they should be able to handle it. But let's get back to Maryland on the football side. So we jumping around. Okay, now Maryland was a pretty good team last year. They have a great coaching staff led by Mike Locksley, and then you also have a pretty tough defense and running game. Now I know a lot of people were critical of the offensive coordinator that came from Michigan, then went to Miami, Gaddis, but he was able to get it figured out with Tua Tagovailoa's younger brother Talia last year. So I feel like with their new quarterback, it shouldn't be as big of a lead, because I would have probably took 21 points if it was Talia, but I still feel like with the coaching staff around the young man, they should be able to just lean on the running game and lean on the defense. Now, when it comes to Oklahoma State, I know a lot of people may be skeptical because you saw what happened with Colorado in North Dakota State. Well, the other major superpower in FCS is South Dakota State, that actually has been beating North Dakota State on the regular the last 2 years. South Dakota State is a strong program, but the problem is when you're talking about 10.5 points, Oklahoma State is a track meet type of team. They're from the old Big 12. This year's Big 12, you saw with TCU last night over Stanford. They're a little bit more physical, a little bit more defensive because they have to, because it's a mixture. You have some teams like Utah that are tough on D. UCF, not so much, but they're getting there. You know what I mean? And they're heavy on the run game. And then also with the new clock rules, it'll work in some people's favor and work against some. You got a 2-minute warning. They're calling it the 2-minute timeout, but also you have a running clock almost unless you go out of bounds, similar to the NFL. So it won't be enough time for certain offenses to huddle or certain offenses to pass as much. But a program like Oklahoma State that breeds quarterbacks, that's led by Mike Gundy, an alumni, that he has the best running back in the country in Ollie Gordon to pound you, but he also has a pretty good quarterback in Allen Bowman, I think his name is. So the defense can just do a bend and don't break. And the thing about South Dakota State is, coming from the FCS level, they're a physical program. They can pass it, but they lean on the run, similar to North Dakota State. I don't think that's going to work on the road at Oklahoma State, because I feel like it'll be a track meet and they won't be able to outscore Oklahoma State. So that's why I'm giving the 10.5. I'm expecting like a 13-point to 17-point victory for Oklahoma State. Now moving on to Northwestern. Northwestern is going to be in a tight one with Miami of Ohio, not Miami of Florida. We are picking Miami of Florida against Florida Gators. The reason why I picked Northwestern, not only being at home, but, you know, they are a winning program. They're used to winning. They went through a coaching change last year, but they went on a winning streak towards the end of the year. They're a Big Ten program. A lot of people are picking against them. The Big Ten usually beats up on the mat. And I feel like even though Miami of Ohio is a good program, the fact that they're coming in as a 3-point underdog is kind of like an insult to Northwestern, because you get 3 points just for being at home. So they're kind of saying they expect Miami of Ohio to invade Northwestern and win. And I just feel like, you know, the city of Chicago, the alumni, the student section, they're going to galvanize around this team. This is a tough physical team. This isn't one of those Power 5, Power 4 teams that takes people lightly. I feel like Northwestern's culture is going to take over, and they'll get at least a field goal win, if not a touchdown. Now, when we talk about Michigan over Fresno State, a lot of people are mistaken. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Let's go to Eastern Michigan. I'm overstepping my bounds. My bad. Okay, now we got Eastern Michigan on the road at UMass. Now, if you look at the names, UMass may be more of a known name, but Eastern Michigan, similar to the Western Michigans, the Central Michigans, that state is a real football state. It produces a lot of players out of the East Lansing area, out of the Flint, Michigan area, Detroit, Michigan area, the Metro Detroit schools, you know, in all that whole school district. That produces a lot of talent. And it also trickled down into the smaller schools. So Eastern Michigan, even though they may not be as well known, they actually defeated UMass last year. And UMass is at home, but I still feel like they'll be a home underdog. I'm not saying it won't be closer, because it was kind of a blowout last year, but I do feel like Eastern Michigan. So Eastern Michigan, I think that's a lock for the money line, but we won't play with the points because it may be a close one. As far as Michigan, the Michigan Wolverines, shout out to the first-year coach. Shout out to the first-year coach for the Michigan Wolverines. This is your time. You know, you covered for John Harbaugh, maybe 5 or 6 times last year. Now it's time for you to produce. And if you think about David Shaw, he was left that Stanford program from Jim Harbaugh with the running game, with the Toby Gerhardts and with the Andrew Lucks, you know, and Richard Sherman's getting switched from wide receiver to DB. And then you had a couple wide receivers come out of that program too. And then you had Bryce Love. Then David Shaw would produce quarterbacks and running backs on his own, like the Christian McCaffreys. So I feel like one thing about the 49ers, one thing about the San Francisco the Stanford Cardinals, whenever Harbaugh leaves a program, he leaves them in better shape. So Sharon Moore, all you have to do is what you did last year. Just don't take your foot off the gas. Just stick to the system. That's one thing I'm critical of a lot of coaching staffs being egotistical. I even heard it on a basketball podcast with Gilbert Arenas and them. They were talking about why the LA Lakers didn't win 2 championships instead of 1 following that bubble year. Dwight Howard was speaking on how Rob Pelinka and even some people alluded to LeBron, but they didn't want to say his name. Basically, that team was set up with those 4 bigs. Not to talk too much basketball talk, but I'm just making an analogy. It's the same thing with Michigan. Michigan's built at the offense and defensive line and the running game. If you look at College Football 25, the #1 selling video game, who's on the cover? Michigan running back that was had an MVP performance in the national championship. What's his name? Donovan Edwards. So Alex Orji, just dink and dunk. You also have legs, so you can run. You have a short passing threat, and just hand it off to Donovan Edwards. Because now, with you being a 4'4", 4'5", 6'4", like, what is he, like 230, 240 at quarterback, and then you have a running back that's 6'1", about 220, running like a 4'2", or 4'3", or 4'4". I feel like you guys have to just spread Fresno out. Fresno is known for scoring points, but the problem is Michigan may have the best defense in the country. I know a lot of people are talking about all the money that Ohio State spent. Money cannot buy you defense. Money can't buy you football teams at all, but definitely not defense. Sometimes offense, you can get those guys that are mercenaries, but a defense has to work together. A defense has to have toughness. And now they've replaced their defensive coordinator with the guy that actually taught him the system that he learned. So they've replaced one guy with an NFL guy that was actually his sensei, Mr. Miyagi. Wax on, wax off. So that Michigan defense, that Michigan program and coaching staff is just plug and play, because it's a lot of the guys that come from the same tree of Harbaugh, so with those All-Americans on the defensive line, also an All-American tight end at Michigan, there's no reason that you can't do the short pass. And as far as the defense, you got guys like Will Johnson, I believe his name, on cornerback, the best cornerback in the country, arguably. It's no reason for Michigan to not be able to pull out a 17-point, if not a 21-point victory over Fresno State. So that's what's pretty much going on in the world of college football. Let's see what's going on Athlon. Now, we know they had the big game on Thursday night with Coach Prime winning miraculously over North Dakota State. Some say not so miraculous because they expected it. But we have an article that says Deion Sanders sends strong message to critics. It says Colorado head coach Deion Sanders has always been open about letting critics know he sees what they say. Paul Feinbaum, his brother, quote unquote brother, Stephen A. Smith. But let's move on. Okay. He pulled receipts after Colorado beat TCU in week 1 last season and did so again Friday evening. They meant Thursday, I guess. Friday evening, a day after their first win of the 2024 season. Okay. In a late night post just one day after the Buffs beat North Dakota State, Sanders clapped back at his critics who called him a sellout in the past. While it's unclear exactly what prompted this post, I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought it said pass. It very well could be a reference to people criticizing him for leaving the HBCU program, Jackson State, for a predominantly white institution, Colorado, prior to last season. Oh, okay, yeah. I saw that post. Yeah, he showed a picture. I'm gonna see if they have it up. I may pull it up for you guys to see. He showed a picture on his Twitter of a sellout crowd at Colorado. He said, "Yeah, this is the only sellout I know about." So that was pretty dope. You got to have the slick comebacks. So it says Sanders has had plenty of sellout crowds during his time in Boulder. Hey, that's funny. Okay, in the 2023 season marked the first time in program history that every game sold out of tickets. Their previous high was 5 of 6 games, which they had hit back in 1993. And back in 93, 91, 92, they were a national program, and they still weren't selling out the way they're selling out with Coach Prime. So he is really a superstar trailblazing coach. But let's see what else is going on. Oh, hold on. I think the tweet is popping up. I might have to show you guys the tweet. I don't know if it's going to load. If not, we'll move on. Okay, I got to show you guys. You guys got to see it for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Always fact check. Let's see if he sold out like they said he did. Is Coach Prime a sellout? Let's see. because they say he's a sellout for leaving Jackson State. I actually heard that. I heard people talking about that. But I don't think he really did the HBCUs too bad because FAMU was the primetime game on ABC last week. So did that have anything to do with FAMU winning the national championship, or did that have anything to do with a combination of FAMU success and Coach Prime just putting the spotlight on HBCUs? But anyway, this is Twitter. You see Coach Prime at Deion Sanders. It says when they said I sold out. Yeah. When they said I sold out, this is what they were talking about. So he got the little crying emojis, and then you see a sellout crowd. You see black people, white people, all people wearing that black, gold, and white, representing for the Buffs. So it's a lot going on in Boulder, Colorado, and the story is not over. We got the sequel to the movie because next week they go on the road to Nebraska, one of their arch, if not their biggest rival. You know, even though they're boarding up another rivalry with Colorado State, the Rams, that they'll probably be facing later on this month, I believe. Well, no, we're still in August. Later on, September, they'll be facing off with those guys. There also was a lot of controversy last night with like some post-game takeaways about a call that went on between Michigan State and Florida Atlantic. You know, the Florida boys, they almost went up there and took one. I believe it was a 16-10 Michigan State. So that wasn't what people expected, not even me. So it says Tom Harmon, that's the FAU coach, breaks silence on overturned targeting call and FAU lost to Michigan State. Tom Harmon was confused by the official's decision to reverse the call that ended up putting a major dent to FAU's attempted rally against Spartans. So it says the FAU Owls were very close to taking the lead against the Michigan State Spartans on Friday night at Spartan Stadium in East Lansing. Now, that's what city I was mentioning with all that talent in Michigan. It says trailing 16-3 after the first half, FAU cut the deficit down to single digits with their only touchdown of the game scored by wide receiver Jayshon Platt. With the score at 16-10, all that was needed for the Owls to take the lead was one more touchdown. As long as the defense continued getting stops, which they did for the most part. So that's a lot of defense from a G5 program. But hey, it's Florida, man. You always got to be aware of Florida teams. When you see that F on that helmet, yeah, that F stands for you better be afraid. Yeah, F for fear, F for ferocious. Okay, but let's keep going. It says during FAU, the Owls had an opportunity to enter on Michigan State territory when Michigan State defender appeared to target quarterback Cam Fancher on 4th and 1, prompting the officials to throw flags for a penalty call. All right. It says following video review, failed to get the first down during the drive. The only penalty that stood was an unsportsmanlike conduct call that they had that had impacted Michigan State's possession, not the other way around in favor of Florida Atlantic, as some would have anticipated. So they got an unsportsmanlike call, but they still got to keep possession because it was after the play, I guess. And as far as the targeting, come on, Tom Harmon. If they stopped you on 4th down and you're trying to rely on targeting, I guess you're implicating that without him hitting with the crown of his head, they wouldn't have made the tackle. That's debatable. But, you know, it's almost like an upset, you know, but it almost doesn't count, especially in the state of Florida and the county of Palm Beach, Boca Raton to be exact. I know you guys wanted to win, you know, but way to go, FAU. I know you got a big-time basketball program. The football program's coming along. Maybe next time. It says following the game, ending in 16-10 defeat, Coach Tom Harmon revealed his thoughts on what happened during the moments in the post-game press conference. He's quoted as saying, "To the guys on the field, he made the right call. So how that gets overturned with a clear video evidence that wasn't targeting?" He's asking the question. So he's saying, so how I guess he means how does. It looks like a grammatical error. How does that get overturned without clear video evidence that wasn't targeting? I haven't seen the replay. A lot of stuff is going on. So as they do they review every targeting, and somebody in New York or Dallas or wherever they do these things said that wasn't targeting, but that it was a late hit. But a late hit by definition occurs after the play is dead, and the play was dead prior to him to making no line of gain. I guess they mean making a first down line. It's kind of like written weird. Okay, so it says, so how that wasn't targeting, I'm confused. So basically, he's saying that the late hit occurred after. Okay, so it says, and the play then was dead prior to him making no line of gain. So maybe the referees called the play dead before the hit. So basically, long story short, they were relying on the referees, and when you go on the road, you remember the Catholic versus Convicts with Jimmy Johnson in Notre Dame, he said, you're going to hostile territories, we cannot leave this up to the referees. So that's my message to Tom Harmon. Please never leave it up to the referees. Now, in the world of high school football, the Miami Booker T game versus Miami Palmetto was postponed after halftime. It was 10-9 because of weather delays. Carroll City actually took a big loss to New Orleans. Miami Northwestern unfortunately gave up a close lead in overtime and lost to Venice, but they still had a heavyweight fight. I think if they play 10 times, Miami Northwestern wins maybe 6 or 5 times, but it was a great showing. They're definitely looking like a state championship program. That's pretty much going to be all for the day. Also, yeah, let me give you those bonus picks for sticking with me. All right, so the bonus picks. Some of the bonus picks that we have for the day. Give me 1 second. All right, so I know I had Michigan minus 16.5, but actually they're good for 20.5. Let's take the 21 point if you're feeling froggy. Also, in the Wyoming game against Arizona State, let's take Wyoming plus 7.5, not 17, plus 7.5. Alabama minus 30.5. Okay. If they begin to get behind, you can still take Northwestern plus 14.5, up to plus 14.5. So if it's plus a touchdown, if it's plus 14.5, they won't lose by more than 14 points. So if it's live, the same thing with the Miami Hurricanes. If the game is live, you can live bet them up to plus 14.5 if they're behind the Gators. They won't lose by more than 2 touchdowns. If the Georgia Bulldogs are down, you can take them plus 10.5. because they won't lose by more than 10. But I do have them an upset special to lose to Clemson. So that's going to be my show for the day. Also, with that Wyoming game, if it's live, you can take them up to plus 24.5. They won't lose by more than 24 to Arizona State. That's going to be a late game for United Owls. So this is the picks. We got Miami money line. We got Virginia Tech minus 9.5, Clemson plus 14.5, Maryland minus 12.5, Oklahoma State minus 10.5, Northwestern minus 2.5, Eastern Michigan money line, Michigan minus 16.5. And then also the MLB picks are the Cubs money line, New York Yankees money line. I'm out. Put the picks in. Let's get this yen, this dollar, this moolah, this Dijo Dinero, this mucha. Let's get it. Let's get the cheese, baby.